This lecture is about word association mining and analysis. In this lecture, we're going to talk about how to mine associations of words from text. Now, this is an example of knowledge about the natural language that we can mine from text data. Here's the outline. We're going to first talk about what is word association, and then explain why discovering such relations is useful. And finally, we're going to talk about some general ideas about how to mine word associations. In general, there are two word relations, and these are quite basic. One is called a paradigmatic relation. The other is syntagmatic relation. A and B have paradigmatic relation if they can be substituted for each other. That means the two words that have paradigmatic relation would be in the same semantic class or syntactic class. And we can in general replace one by the other without affecting the understanding of the sentence. That means we would still have a valid sentence. For example, cat and dog. And these two words have paradigmatic relation because they are in the same class of animal. And in general, if you replace cat with dog in the sentence would still be a valid sentence that you can make sense of. Similarly, Monday and Tuesday have paradigmatic relation. The second kind of relation is called syntagmatic relation. In this case, the two words that have this relation can be combined with each other. So A and B have syntagmatic relation if they can be combined with each other in a sentence. That means these two words are semantically related. So for example, cat and sit are related because a cat can sit somewhere. Similarly, car and drive are related semantically, and they can be combined with each other to convey a meaning. However, in general, we cannot replace cat with sit in a sentence or car with drive in a sentence to still get a valid sentence, meaning that if we do that, the sentence will become somewhat meaningless. So this is different from paradigmatic relation. And these two relations are in fact so fundamental that they can be generalized to capture basic relations between units in arbitrary sequences. And definitely they can be generalized to describe relations of any items in a language. So A and B don't have to be words, and they can be phrases, for example. And they can even be more complex phrases than just a noun phrase. If you think about the general problem of sequence mining, then we can think about the units in the sequence data. And then we can think of paradigmatic relation as relations that are applied to units that tend to occur in similar locations in a sentence or in a sequence of data elements in general. So they occur in similar locations relative to the neighbors in the sequence. Syntagmatic relation, on the other hand, is related to co-occurring elements that tend to show up in the same sequence. So these two are complementary and are basic relations of words, and we're interested in discovering them automatically from text data. Discovering such word relations has many applications. First, such relations can be directly useful for improving accuracy of many NLP tasks. And this is because this is part of our knowledge about the language. So if you know these two words or synonyms, for example, and then you can help a lot of tasks. And grammar learning can be also done by using such techniques, because if we can learn paradigmatic relations, then we form classes of words, syntactic classes, for example. And if we learn syntagmatic relations, then we would be able to know the rules for putting together a larger expression based on component expressions. So we'll learn the structure and what can go with what else. Word relations can be also very useful for many applications in text retrieval and mining. For example, in search, in text retrieval, we can use word associations to modify a query. And this can be used to introduce additional related words to a query to make the query more effective. It's often called a query expansion. Or you can use related words to suggest related queries to the user to explore the information space. Another application is to use word associations to automatically construct a topic map for browsing, where we can have words as nodes and associations as edges. A user could navigate from one word to another to find information in the information space. Finally, such word associations can also be used to compare and summarize opinions. For example, we might be interested in understanding positive and negative opinions about iPhone 6. In order to do that, we can look at what words are most strongly associated with a feature word like battery in positive versus negative reviews. Such syntagmatic relations would help us show the detailed opinions about the product. So how can we discover such associations automatically? Now, here are some intuitions about how to do that. Now, let's first look at the paradigmatic relation. Here, we essentially can take advantage of similar contexts. So here you see some simple sentences about cat and dog. You can see they generally occur in similar context. And that, after all, is the definition of paradigmatic relation. So on the right side, you can see I extracted explicitly the context of cat and dog from this small sample of text data. So I've taken away cat and dog from the corresponding sentences so that you can see just the context. Now, of course, we can have different perspectives to look at the context. For example, we can look at what words occur in the left part of this context. So we can call this left context. What words occur before we see cat or dog? So you can see in this case, clearly dog and cat have similar left context. You generally say his cat or my cat, and you say also my dog and his dog. So that makes them similar in the left context. Similarly, if you look at the words that occur after cat and dog, which we can call right context, and they're also very similar. In this case, of course, it's an extreme case where you only see eats, and in general, you will see many other words, of course, that can follow cat and dog. You can also even look at the general context, and that might include all the words in the sentence or in sentences around this word. And even in the general context, you also see some similarity between the two words. So this is just suggesting that we can discover paradigmatic relation by looking at the similarity of context of words. So for example, if we think about the following questions: how similar are context of cat and context of dog? In contrast, how similar are context of cat and context of computer? Now, intuitively, we would imagine the context of cat and the context of dog would be more similar than the context of cat and context of computer. That means in the first case, the similarity value would be high between the contexts of cat and dog, whereas in the second, the similarity between contexts of cat and computer would be low because they are not having a paradigmatic relationship. And you can imagine what words occur after computer in general. They would be very different from what words occur after cat. So this is the basic idea for discovering paradigmatic relation. What about the syntagmatic relation? Well, here we're going to exploit the correlated occurrences, again based on the definition of syntagmatic relation. Here you see the same sample of text, but here we're interested in knowing what other words are correlated with the verb eats, and what words can go with eats. And if you look at the right side of the slide, and you see I've taken away the two words around eats. I've taken away the word to its left and also the word to its right in each sentence. And then we can ask the question, what words tend to occur to the left of eats? And what words tend to occur to the right of eats? Now, thinking about this question would help us discover syntagmatic relations, because syntagmatic relation essentially captures such correlations. So the important question to ask for syntagmatic relation is, whenever eats occurs, what other words also tend to occur? So the question here has to do with whether there are some other words that tend to co-occur together with eats, meaning that whenever you see eats, you tend to see the other words. And if you don't see eats, probably you don't see other words often either. So this intuition can help us discover syntagmatic relations. Now, again, consider example. How helpful is the occurrence of eats for predicting occurrence of meat? Right, so knowing whether eats occurs in a sentence would generally help us predict whether meat also occurs. Indeed, if we will see eats occurring in the sentence, and that should increase the chance that meat would also occur. In contrast, if you look at the question in the bottom, how helpful is the occurrence of eats for predicting the occurrence of text? Because eats and text are not really related, so knowing whether eats occurred in a sentence doesn't really help us predict whether text also occurs in the sentence. So this is in contrast to the question about eats and meat. This also helps explain the intuition behind the methods for discovering syntagmatic relation. Mainly, we need to capture the correlation between the occurrences of two words. So to summarize, the general ideas for discovering word associations are the following. For paradigmatic relation, we represent each word by its context and then compute the context similarity. We're going to assume the words that have high context similarity to have paradigmatic relation. For syntagmatic relation, we will count how many times two words occur together in a context, which can be a sentence, a paragraph, or a document even. And we're going to compare their co-occurrences with their individual occurrences. We're going to assume words with high co-occurrences but relatively low individual occurrences to have syntagmatic relations, because they tend to occur together and they don't usually occur alone. Note that the paradigmatic relation and the syntagmatic relation are actually closely related, in that paradigmatically related words tend to have syntagmatic relation with the same word. They tend to be associated with the same word. And that suggests that we can also do joint discovery of the two relations. So these general ideas can be implemented in many different ways. And the course won't cover all of them, but we will cover at least some of the methods that are effective for discovering these relations.